Hello dear fellow climbers or non-climbers, I'm Gergő and I would like to tell you a story about this really cool route that I have been trying for years and how it affected my climbing life and my progression in climbing. This was probably the most influential route that after I climbed it I was able to progress much faster than before. And I think it was a mixture of mental capabilities and also some strength elements as well. So, first I'm going to really quickly run you through how I got to this point. I started climbing around 2018, I think November was it, only bouldering with one of my friends. I progressed pretty quickly for the first few grades because I had like a gym background and I had pretty good upper body strength already, but it didn't help with my climbing technique. So I was always pretty strong, but my technique was not the best, so I always muscled my way up the easier climbs to around 6A, B. That's where I was stuck for a long time. I think I went rock climbing for the first time after 6 or 8 months of climbing, and maybe after 1.5 years when I tried this route for the first time. It's in a small old crag near to my home. It's actually walking distance, and my friends invited me to go and try this climb because they all were trying it years before and they said it was really hard for the grade. It's a really badly sandbagged route. People say that it's the hardest 6B plus in Hungary or that you can find. I don't know if it's true, but it's really hard. 6B plus, it's a 7 plus in the European grading system. This crag is very small. It's a little bit overhanging 10 or 12 meter high, I think limestone wall maybe, but I'm not sure about that. It's pretty polished. Everybody was climbing on it for at least 30-40 years, so it's not the most pleasant sticky rock that you can find. I started to love it either way. There is a few easier routes to the left from this route. I was able to do them for the first time as well. They are not too bad. But this one, it's called Epsilon. It means the letter Y in Hungarian, and it really was the breaking point in my climbing. So when I first tried it, the problem was that I could do pretty much all the moves, but I had not too much experience on how to climb on rock and on the mental side as well. The thing that I really missed was power endurance. That is the only thing you need probably, and some maximal strength maybe. That was my problem. I could do every move in itself, and there is one really particularly hard crux move that you will see right here. This small crimpy undercling move is where I was stuck all the time. I could do the moves until then, but I always fell on this crux move. It's an undercling side pull-ish like crimpy hold that you have to hold and hold the tension and step up, and with a big drop knee you can reach up to this small crimp. Not so bad crimp, actually it's a good hold. I couldn't do it, and we went back there at this time for like 4 times maybe, and I always thought that for the next time I am going to be able to do the route on top rope at least, but I never managed to do it. After this, lockdown hit us. It was 2020 and I couldn't climb for months. I was back home and training finger strengths and weighted pull-ups like crazy. When we got back, on the first time that I was climbing outside again, I fell on my ankle on a ledge. It was a pretty bad ankle sprain and I couldn't climb for at least 3 months and was back home training again. But the positive part was that I got a little bit stronger. I could lift heavier weights with fingers as well. After I got back from that, I started climbing again, but obviously the training that I did was really just good for the hangboard, and I started climbing pretty hard from the first time again, and got injured again. My shoulders hurt as well, and one time I did training and I did like the stupidest thing, and I injured one of my fingers because I was showing off basically. That really was a down point in my climbing. Just the point when I started to feel strong, I had to really quit for almost 6 months until I was back to full strength. That was around 2021 when I was able to go back to trying Epsilon for the first time after my injuries. That was also a really hard time because I was really confident, I felt stronger, but that move was still very hard. I was injured in an open hand position. When I started trying the crux move, it felt better than ever before, but on my last try on that day, I I managed to injure that finger again because my pinky slipped from the hold and I was holding it with a 3-finger drag, which was really weak at that time because of the injury. It's still not so good. I saw and I felt that my pinky popped, but I was still trying the move anyway, and it was a big mistake. It was bad finger injury again.
Oh, man!
Back to zero again. After this, I thought that maybe I shouldn't try this route again, and I rehabbed my finger. It went pretty well, but it was also like 3 or 4 months until I was back climbing full strength again. But that was like a big takeaway for me, and I started to develop this skill mentally that I shouldn't push myself too hard, and what's my limit. And my climbing technique was also getting better because all the time that I was back climbing after my injuries, I really had to be careful what I was doing, and any sudden movements or slips could be detrimental. So my technique got a little bit better because of the injuries, and I always also became a really passive and static climber. But I did, unfortunately, again, my third finger injury in a really short period of time, which I think is a world record probably, because I was so dedicated that I have to rehab my bad finger and get stronger in the 3-finger drag position and open hand position, that I started to build up the strength and my finger was well again. And that was the 2021 December, when I got to the point that I was able to hang with 2 hands, 2 fingers on pockets, and I was trying to make it stronger. But my other hand felt that maybe I shouldn't do it, and the other ring finger FTP tendon blew as well. That was also really hard 2 or 3 months. That was not so bad as the first one, but it was a few months as well. After I got back from that, I made the pact with myself that okay, this was really bad, and this is the last time I'm going to injure myself in stupid ways like that. Not even climbing, just training and being stupid. I just said that okay, for the next year or so, I'm only climbing for joy, and I'm not gonna push my training any further. I'm just gonna climb and try rock routes and have fun, and I don't care about my mass strength or any of that. And this was like the point when I started to actually progress faster than ever before. I don't know why that was, but after this, mentally I was so much better, and I started climbing on rock pretty regularly. This was the cause that I was able to climb Epsilon. After I really successfully rehabbed my third finger injury, I was back on training, and somehow I felt that I was a better climber than before. And on the rock and in the bouldering hole as well, I somehow felt that I climbed better because of the injuries. I think it was that I mentioned before that my technique became much more precise because I was afraid to re-injure myself. I find that on the rock really well. And I went back to try Epsilon, and I did it on top rope, I think, on the first day. On the second day that I tried, like a week later, I was already doing it on lead, and I managed to do it, I think, maybe the second try, and I was totally over with joy. And this experience that after all these injuries, I could do this pretty hard route for me. I just knew that I had to now try and push the grades, but not by training very hard, just by actually trying harder routes. And I started to do that. That's where my climbing went from 6B plus to 7B in like 6 months. So I think this route was really important in my climbing life. From that point, I was so much more motivated, and I'm going to try to do a video also about the story of that 6 months and the progression I had after I climbed Epsilon. I'm also planning to do another video about how I rehabbed my finger injury, especially the last one, because that was maybe the most quick and successful one. I don't know what this channel is going to be about. I just had this sudden urge to do this video about my most influential climb, and maybe that this could help others not to make the same mistakes I did and improve their climbing quickly and more efficiently than I did. So I also started to upload some of my harder ascents that I did in the last 6 months, and you can check those out as well. And if you liked this video, consider watching the other ones and maybe subscribing. Sorry if the videos was a little bit shaky. This is the first time I actually talk to a camera, so it was maybe a little bit slow for the most users, but I tried to keep it as short as possible. Maybe it is already too long. Thank you for watching, and bye.